Hi everyone. Unlike corporate media on cable television, I tend not to give much weight to people who have opinions, who provide what they deem to be evidence, if they have been consistently wrong about everything in the past, or they are confirmed liars, such as James Clapper, or they're partisan hacks paid by the military-industrial complex. I'm thinking specifically of MSNBC there. All verified crazy people, such as Louise Mensch. I tend to ignore what these people are thinking. I listen to them and I laugh at them, but I tend to ignore what these people are thinking and saying because I know that historically they've just been wrong. So why they keep getting invited onto the cable TV, well, I mean, I have opinion about that. I'm sure it's the same as yours. But there's one group of people, when it comes to this DNC hack, which is obviously in the news again recently in the light of Mueller's indictments of these 12 Russians. There's one group who have been consistently right about things, who have an opinion on this supposed DNC hack. They've got a track record of being right. They have an opinion, and that's the group is the Veterans Intelligence Professionals for Sanity, or VIPS for short. Now, regular viewers of my videos will know I've mentioned them many times. They will know who they are. For those who don't know, it was set up around about the turn of the century by ex-CIA analyst, I think he was, Ray McGovern, and ex-NSA Bill Binney. So these guys, I think they've got 63 years of experience between them. They're just the two main guys. There are many others as well. There are hundreds of years of experience in the intelligence community in America for them to fall back on. So generally they know what they're doing, and more importantly, generally they've been right in the past. For instance, in 2003 they sent a memo out on February the 7th, on the eve of the Iraq war, basically saying your analysts have interpreted this information wrong. There are no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. You are blaming them for something and it's wrong. And they were proven right. And then in, I think, 2013, they sent another open memo out, this time to Barack Obama, telling him it looks to us like this chemical attack in Syria wasn't actually done by Assad. It looks to us like it was actually the rebels who did this in a false flag event, hoping to get Western intervention. President Obama obviously ignored that and asked the Senate for permission to bomb Syria, and they denied him, but he went and did it anyway a year or so later. And what happens? Lo and behold, this is from Global Research, Syria, UN mission report confirms that opposition rebels use chemical weapons against civilians and government forces. This is something that's come out recently that, surprise, surprise, gets absolutely no coverage in the mainstream media. This is not Global Research saying that. This is the UN mission report, the United Nations mission report. Mainstream media just never mention that at all. They still say, oh, the chemical weapons attack that Assad did in Syria in 2013. United Nations seem to think it's something different. So VIPS have got a track record of being right on serious issues, whereas the American government, the American intelligence services, if you like, have been consistently wrong. And they, in December 2016, published a memo that criticised any allegations of Russian interference in the 2016 election. They called it evidence-free, and they investigated the documents released by Guccifer, which the forensicator had analysed, and they concluded that in all likelihood this was not a hack, it was a leak, and that was based on the transfer speed. I've covered this many times, the transfer speed of the so-called hack of this NGP van file that was taken from the DNC servers. So I've covered this in many videos before, just wanted to update those of you who didn't know. But on the eve of the summit of what is ridiculously being called on Twitter by many people, and it's trending as #1 at the moment, the hashtag Treason Summit. On the eve of that, VIPS have actually published another memo. This is a few days after, or rather 2 days after Mueller's indictments of these 12 Russians. And it's in consortium news. I'm going to leave a link down there so you can read it in full. I'll read probably a few paragraphs of this, the important bits, just to give you understanding of what they think after the indictments by Mueller. So it starts off on this. With Friday's indictments of Russian intelligence officers, Ray McGovern and Bill Binney have written an open letter to President Trump making clear that the evidence behind the indictments is as fraudulent as the intelligence alleging WMDs in Iraq. It is being published exclusively here ahead of the Trump-Putin summit on Monday. So briefing for the president. This is what they say. On our article of June the 7th, 2018 explains further. Still waiting evidence of a Russian attack. If you are wondering why so little is heard these days of accusations that Russia hacked into the US election in 2016, it could be because those charges could not withstand close scrutiny. It could also be because Special Counsel Robert Mueller appears to have never bothered to investigate what was once the central alleged crime in Russiagate, as no one associated with WikiLeaks has ever been questioned by his team. Now just think about that. Just think about that. Nobody at WikiLeaks has ever been questioned about it. They were the ones who released the documents. There's something fishy there. Extremely fishy. Veteran intelligence professionals for sanity, including 2 alumni who were former NSA technical directors, have long since concluded that Julian Assange did not acquire what he calls the quote emails related to Hillary Clinton via a quote hack by the Russians or anybody else. They found rather that he got them from someone with physical access to the DNC computers who copied the material onto an external storage device, probably a thumb drive. In December 2016, VIPS explained this in some detail in an open memo to President Barack Obama. So that's basically covered what I did with the lead into this video, just so everybody knows exactly why I hold VIPS in such high standing and why I tend to dismiss things like that are said by people like James Clapper and Louise Mensch and all these stupid partisan hacks that just can't see the woods for the trees. So the article continues. On January the 18th, 2017, President Obama admitted that the conclusions of the US intelligence regarding how the alleged Russian hacking got to WikiLeaks were inconclusive. Even the vapid FBI, CIA, NSA, quote, intelligence community assessment of Russian activities and intentions in recent US elections, end quote, of January the 6th, which tried to blame Russian President Vladimir Putin for election interference, contained no direct evidence of Russian involvement. That did not prevent the hand-picked authors of that poor excuse for intelligence analysis from expressing, quote, high confidence that Russian intelligence relayed material it acquired from the DNC to WikiLeaks. Hand-picked analysts, of course, say what they are hand-picked to say. In other words, CrowdStrike were paid by the DNC. They're going to come to the conclusions that the DNC want. I also find it extremely interesting there that they're saying that the same thing I have said all along. It's entirely evidence-free. All of these accusations, no evidence is being provided for these accusations, especially for the recent accusations in the indictment from Robert Mueller. The article continues, never mind, the FBI, CIA, NSA assessment became Bible truth for partisans like Representative Adam Schiff, ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, who was among the first off the blocks to blame Russia for interfering to help Trump. It simply could not have been that Hillary Clinton was quite capable of snatching defeat out of the hands of victory all by herself. No, it had to have been the Russians. Now, this is what I have been saying all along as well, and many others. It's not just me. It's strange that this whole Russian hack has become the main story, when really what's the main story is what was in the emails. That's the story. Remember that. That's the story. How Hillary Clinton and the DNC rigged the primaries against Bernie Sanders. That's the story. This is something that they said specifically didn't happen. This is something that these crazy people and these partisan hacks and these intelligence people who are routinely rolled out on MSNBC and CNN and Fox, who have been consistently wrong about everything. Remember, these were the people who were saying, "You're crazy. They're not trying to rig it against Bernie." They all said that. Remember, that was these memos, these emails that were released by WikiLeaks proved them all to be wrong, all of them. And rather than look at what was in the memos, they immediately went down the route of the Russians did it, and Trump is in league with Russia, and Trump is Putin's puppet. Why did they do that? Well, I have hypothesized in the past that the reason they do that is because it gives them an out. It gives them a focus for the media to focus on instead of themselves. It lets them carry on taking their corporate money. It lets them carry on having super delegates. It lets them carry on in the future potentially rigging primaries again against candidates that they don't like, rather than actually listen to the people of America and give them what they want. Give them universal healthcare or Medicare for all. It all actually fits if you think about it. It's logical. So the article continues. 5 days into the Trump presidency, McGovern had a chance to challenge Schiff personally on the gaping disconnect between the Russians and WikiLeaks. Schiff still, quote, can't share the evidence with me or with anyone else because it does not exist. It was on June the 12th, 2016, just 6 weeks before the Democratic National Convention, that Assange announced the pending publication of emails related to Hillary Clinton, throwing the Clinton campaign into panic mode, since the emails would document strong bias in favour of Clinton and successful attempts to sabotage the campaign of Bernie Sanders. When the emails were published on July the 22nd, just 3 days before the convention began, the campaign decided to create what we call a magnificent diversion, drawing attention away from the substance of the emails by blaming Russia for their release. And that's exactly what I just explained to you. And that's what their conclusions as well. Clinton's PR chief, Jennifer Palmieri, later admitted that she was golf carted around to various media outlets at the convention with instructions to, quote, to get the press to focus on something even we found difficult to process. The prospect that Russia had not only hacked and stolen emails from the DNC, but that it had done so to help Donald Trump and hurt Hillary Clinton, end quote. The diversion worked like a charm. Mainstream media kept shouting the Russians did it and gave little, if any, play to the DNC skullduggery revealed in the emails themselves. And like Brer Fox, Bernie didn't say nothing. And this is one of the reasons why people like myself have been, it's the one thing that we are disappointed in Bernie in. We wish he would just really come out and tell the truth of how he feels, because he can't actually feel that. He can't think it was Russia. He just can't. Meanwhile, highly sophisticated technical experts were hard at work fabricating forensic facts to prove the Russians did it. Here's how it played out. Now, here's the timeline, and I suggested, I alluded to this in one of the videos I did a couple of days ago on this indictment. This is, I know Jamal Thomas, I've spoken to him on email, and he said this is curious as well. We agree. By the way, it's the 16th of July. Jamal Thomas is joining me for my live stream tonight at 9 p.m. GMT. So please tune in for that if you've seen this video on the day. So this is the timeline. June the 12th, 2016. Assange announces that WikiLeaks is about to publish emails related to Hillary Clinton. June the 14th, 2 days later, DNC contractor CrowdStrike, brackets, with a dubious professional record and multiple conflicts of interest, announces that malware has been found on the DNC server and claims there is evidence it was injected by Russians. What they're referring to there with the dubious professional record is they were actually employed by, I've forgotten who it was employed by now, but they were employed to investigate an incident that went on in Ukraine, and they blamed Russia for it, and it ended up being absolute nonsense, and they had to retract it and edit their statements. So they have a history of getting things wrong and blaming Russia. Maybe that's why the DNC hired them, and maybe that's why they have never, ever handed over their server. It's strange that, isn't it? If you're investigating a crime as bad as election interference, surely you would go to the source of that crime, which is the DNC server. The FBI could just subpoena it. The FBI could literally just walk in there and take it if they wanted to. But nobody's ever evaluated what was on that server, apart from the people the DNC paid. Now just think about that. Why people in the mainstream media are not talking about that fact, I say it's beyond me, but it's not. We all know why. Anyway, this article continues. So, a day after CrowdStrike announced that malware had been found on the DNC server, this happened. Guccifer2.0 affirms the DNC statement, claims responsibility for the hack, claims to be a WikiLeaks source, and posts a document that the forensics show was synthetically tainted with Russian fingerprints. Just think about that. Forensic analysis has shown that Guccifer copy-pasted stuff onto the documents, onto the metadata, I think it was, that pointed the finger back to Russia. Why is that not the number one story? Doesn't add up. The June 12th, 14th and 15th timing was hardly coincidence. Rather, it was the start of a preemptive move to associate Russia with anything WikiLeaks might have been able to publish, and to show that it came from a Russian hack. Enter independent investigators, however. A year ago, independent cyber investigators completed the type of forensic work that, for reasons best known to then FBI Director James Comey, neither he nor the hand-picked analysts who wrote the January 6, 2017 assessment bothered to do. The independent investigators found verifiable evidence from metadata found in the record of an alleged Russian hack of July the 5th, 2016, showing that hack that day of the DNC by Guccifer2.0 was not a hack by Russia or anyone else. So VIPS not only concluded that it was a leak and not a hack back in December of 2016, but since these indictments by Mueller, they're even more convinced now of their findings. What does that tell you? The group that has been consistently, the majority of the time, right, especially with things of this magnitude, whereas the mainstream media, as we know, and these people that they bring on all the time to give their opinions, have been consistently wrong. Who are you going to believe? Whose opinion do you think you should hold more value to? I know who I do. It's really interesting. I'll leave a link to this article, by the way, down there, to this memorandum. It is actually really interesting. I suggest you read it all, but for me to read it all, this video would have been about 40 minutes long. I am actually hopeful here, unlike with the Novichok poisonings. I am actually hopeful here that we are going to have our Chilcot report moment. We are going to have the day will come here where it will all come out as to exactly what happened. I am hopeful of that. I'm not with the Novichok, so we'll see. I was even more hopeful when I woke up this morning and saw these two tweets by the president, when he said President Obama thought that crooked Hillary was going to win the election. So when he was informed by the FBI about Russian meddling, he said it couldn't happen, was no big deal, and did nothing about it. When I won, it became a big deal, and the rigged witch hunt headed by Sturzak. That is actually true, in my opinion. I'm not a big Donald Trump fan, as many of my subscribers know. But when he's right, and I say he's right. And then the next tweet was, our relationship with Russia has never been worse thanks to many years of US foolishness and stupidity, and now the rigged witch hunt. I wouldn't say it's never been worse. There was a Cold War for about 50 years, Donald. But it is quite bad. However, the Russian Foreign Office agreed with him. I'm hopeful that this summit is going to go well. I'm hopeful that we're going to see some détente between Russia and Trump, the same as we saw détente between North Korea and Trump. Again, remember, the press didn't want him to do détente with North Korea. In fact, I saw this morning. I'll put this up here by Amy Klobuchar. If you substituted the words there, President Vladimir Putin, for President Kim Jong-un, that could be exactly verbatim what they were all saying about the North Korea summit. And now they're doing it the same with the Russia summit. Treason summit. Hashtag treason summit trending on Twitter. It's pathetic, it really is. Where's the evidence, Mueller? Where's the evidence? We've seen evidence from VIPS. We've seen their analysis of it. It's all on the table. Where's yours? If you enjoyed this video, please click the bell down there and subscribe so you get a notification of next time I drop a video. Also, I can't do this without your help, so if you can afford it and you enjoy my videos, please support the channel by subscribing to my Patreon. Link is down there. You can do it for as little as $1 a month, and it really does help. If you can't afford it, that's fine. Please share my work and talk to other people about the issues that I bring up. Thanks very much for your support. Until next time, peace and take care.